Good morning, everybody. I welcome you to a very exciting first day. We not only have the US election running up to its final decisions during this day. We also have a fantastic panel here and a very interesting discussion about operating in different cultural environment. And with me, I have a rock star panel from the industry. And looking at this setup, we're actually covering the cultural differences we're talking, I'm from Sweden, we have Estonia, we have Georgia, we have Russian representation, we have Czech Republic representation. So this is gonna be really interesting. And I would like the panelists to present themselves. And could we please start with Lasha? You start.
Okay, thank you, Jesper, very much. So I'm Lasha Machavariani. I'm founder of Sports Media Holding and Setanta Sports Media. Actually, Sports Media Holding is the co-organizer of this event, and we are really happy and glad to have you here. My background is more than 10 years in the betting industry and also sports media related to betting. And we are covering the operations across CIS through our brands. So this is very short, let's say.
Thank you, Lasha. Perfect. You're going to contribute a lot here. You have both the TV experience and also the betting experience. Thanks for that. And next one, Veiko.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So Veiko Grünberg, Estonian, coming from Olympic Entertainment Group, and currently in the role of managing director for Olibet, which is a sister brand of the group, operating mainly in the land-based area of the gaming business. 26-year-old business in the online since 2010. I myself since 2006, but hardly a rock star.
I wouldn't say that. You are definitely one of the veterans in the industry and also representing a very interesting company. And from that, we go to Kirill.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kirill. I'm representing today Endorfina. I'm sales director here. What I can tell about Endorfina, we're making beautiful slots. We are top provider in such markets as CIS market and some other markets as well. So I'm happy to speak here today. So thanks.
Fantastic. So we are not only covering a lot of different culture areas, we're also covering TV, broadcasting. We have an operator here, we have a game provider here, and we also have a lot of knowledge and expertise when it comes to the betting markets. I think we will cover this from all angles. And my first question to you, because this is about culture, is there actually a difference in gaming culture between different countries and different markets? Who wants to start?
I can start.
Please, you start. You're producing games.
Okay, I'm the first. Yeah. What I can tell, as a game provider perspective, of course, we see the clear separation and different tastes in terms of the games. The popularity of games, let's say in CIS market, is completely different. We see that the players really like some classic games, super easy game, which is really easy to understand, high volatility also games. Mm-hmm. If you're comparing with other markets, as Scandinavian market is completely different. The players prefer completely different games, completely different themes. So I would say, yeah, it's a huge difference between nations.
And this is interesting. I have a second question to you, Kirill. Is this based on what they play in the land-based, or is it a matter of online maturity that makes the difference, or is it just culture?
It comes actually from land-based, because originally the players, they're switching from land-based to online operation. Of course, they also transferred their tastes from land-based. That's why actually in CS market is still popular, very classic book, fruit games, which was originally launched in land-based operations. So yeah, this is clear connection between each other, yeah.
I mean, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And Lasha, from your perspective, I mean,
I would comment on that from the betting operators' perspective, and I would cover the CIS. So it very much differs even into the CIS countries. I'll give you an example. For example, not even onto the products, but even if you take the sports book, For example, in Georgia, it was originally much more popular. The pre-match odds, placing the bets onto the pre-match, while, for example, in Kazakhstan, so around, I don't know, 60-70% of the bet slips were coming onto the in-play. So even into the sports book, there are the differences of in-play and the pre-match. But if you take even into the consideration the casino games, and when I was observing the casino games and the providers of the casino games, which, for example, EGT definitely is one of the leaders in Georgia, and we would say that, for example, Microsoft and other operators are much more popular in other countries, and for example, microgaming in other countries. So we do have the differences not only into the product as within the product vertical, but from the vendor side as well. So it very much differs. And it doesn't mean that the CIS is, and I was yesterday also explaining this, that although it's more considered like the common rule-speaking market, but it very much differs from product to product to vendor, definitely.
Great, thanks. I mean, I agree with you. And this is so interesting to see. But then, Veiko, you are a large company in the Baltics, and the Baltics are culturally, for me, coming from Sweden, quite close to Sweden, but it's also very, for me, it's very the same. All the three countries in the Baltics are very similar. Is that true, or am I wrong here? Are there cultural differences even between the neighbor countries in the Baltics?
Yeah, they are totally different nationalities. So, that's often a mistake that companies make, establishing themselves as a Baltic business, rather than focusing on these different territories separately. That would be said, maybe not that much in gaming, since the industry is fairly new still here, but from retail perspective, when the big Polish companies come here and then they just try to take them at once, not really putting that much emphasis on the differences and localization of the content, for example. But from a gaming perspective, yeah, then obviously there are differences. You can go to land-based side. You can go to Lithuania, for example. You will see on a random Thursday morning at 7-8 a.m. You will see 2 full tables of roulette players, fully occupied, right? So, and in other countries where we operate towards the south, you will see just older ladies playing AVP machines in the evenings, So obviously there are these kind of differences, but to put a little bit different perspective on the online gaming side, then yeah, in a large picture, yes, of course, localization important on the content side, on the product side, but at the same time, we do see that big titles coming from the north, from Sweden specifically, they don't just work in the north and in the Baltics. We have good traction on these titles also in the Central Europe and further south. So that it's like one size doesn't fit all, but at the same time there are good content still works in all the markets, right?
Good, thank you. We should say on this question, and this might be difficult to answer, so I shouldn't perhaps pose it, but Kirill talked about games you're coming from what you played on land-based, you also tend to play online when you're switching.
Yeah.
What other areas, what other things do we have? I mean, you are all in the region of Central Europe, and you have a pretty common history in some sense, and in other senses not. What are the things that makes the gaming population? I know from Sweden that Swedes are playing a lot per capita, and that's due to that the government always allowed it, it controlled it. It actually financed one of the big museums here in Sweden by lottery, selling lottery tickets, etc. So it's common to play in Sweden. Is this the same in where you're coming from? I mean, you all have the heritage of being part of the Soviet Union and where gaming was not allowed, etc., etc. Will this have an influence, or am I wrong here?
Yeah. I can pick up this question. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, okay. You know how is it? So actually, if we take into the consideration several countries, and I'm speaking regarding the CIS, and for example, Georgia, so the people are very, very, very much sports supporters. So many people are watching and supporting sports to the large extent. So this is the first thing, and the second thing is that here it was never ever promoted from the governments in different countries in Georgia or in Kazakhstan that go and play or do something from per capita. But at the same time, here it's more common because it is coming from the people are very much oriented onto the gambling. It's like emotional stuff, and it's entertainment stuff as well. As the eastern part of the Europe and the CIS countries are not matching with the same economic situation with the western part, and here people do not have much more to spend on something for the entertainment, but they can entertain with the not big amounts of money play. So this creates extra, let's say, motivation, and it is somehow deriving the population here to be playing and to be gambling. Of course, there might be some problems with the responsible gaming, and it should be, of course, regulated, and there should be a proper and appropriate limits regarding this. But what makes people to play is that lots of people are really sport fans, football fans or other sports fans, but mainly, so this is football. And at the same time, so the entertainment is put in watching the sports because everybody wants to have something. It might be $1 bet slip, but anyways, to have the motivation, extra motivation to entertain during the watching the game. And what's also very important is that the watching sports here in our countries and in our region, this is very much society driven. So it's social stuff, nobody likes to watch football by its own. So friends are gathering, they're doing this thing, and so everybody then wants to be involved in some entertainment thing. And that so as this is the very big portion of the entertainment, so this drives extra motivation for the betting.
Yeah, good.
I also want to, if you don't mind, to add something to Lasha. I would agree with what he said, but also I want to mention some other thing, that what I mentioned, that in CIS market, we see that players prefer to play games not just because it's part of entertainment and they just want to spend some time. They really think that they can make some money, and it's actually a big portion of those players, they really believe and they know how to make money from such industry. So this is clear, the difference again between the Western players and the CIS players. From my perspective.
This is interesting. This is interesting. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because what you're saying here is basically that there's a difference. There's more of an entertainment factor in the Western part, and it's more of a I want to win that money in the CS region. And I totally believe that, and I also think that's a bit of a and that is something. Do you take that in consideration when you are developing the games?
Of course. That's why, again, we have a bunch of games which is top performing in CS market, and usually it's the most simple games, or like the most like logical, and there is not that much bonus even features inside of the games. So it's super easy to understand the logic of the game. Basically, you somehow even predict the outcome of it. You know how the game behaves. So as easy as possible, the best for the market, for CS market.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. This is really interesting. Cool. And Waco, back to you. This is a question that I have been thinking about, or this is basically to all of us, but if you could answer that one, Waco. If we look at, Estonia is a small country. Sweden, in an international perspective, is a small country, but Sweden has become very good on exporting things, whether it's cars or timber or music or sports stars or whatever. And do you think, because you are now outside Estonia, you started with the Baltics, I know that you have a presence in Finland, you have a presence in Italy, etc., etc. Is it an advantage to come from a smaller market when you want to export?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Yeah, so I think the whole mindset here is supporting that. Like you say yourself, it's the kind of the core focus of the businesses and the mentality of young people. And you know, when you're at school, in business school, you've been always taught, you know, to scale and, you know, expand businesses outside of the country here. So definitely helps that. There is also, let's put it like this, that there is sort of government support, a lot of government support coming for that. So there is not that much sort of protectionism in place. So government, actually, Estonian government supports a lot of foreign businesses being established here. And that's, you know, maybe not that recently, since we have also this populism a little bit affecting our current situation. But in general, I think our businesses are well set in nurturing, you know, other experts or experts from other countries coming here and, you know, working for the businesses here, as well as, you know, the whole IT development industry here is no, let's say, somewhat famous, and you know, you get a lot of quality from Estonia for running a technology business.
That's interesting. I totally believe in this theory that the smaller you are, the better you become on exporting. And I totally get what you're saying, that you even studied this at the university and in the business school, how to do, because it's a way to expand your market. And Lasha, I assume this is the same for Georgia. It's also a relatively small country.
Yes, and especially from the betting operators' perspective. So actually, what we mentioned on our pre-panel call. So the purchasing power in Georgia is much less than in, for example, in Baltics or in Sweden, where also there is the euro. Here are the local currencies, and so people are much less, you know. They do have much less possibility to have the purchasing power. So Georgia is also little with the population, and a small country, less than 4 million country, so in population. So that's why, for example, from the betting perspective, so Adjarabet has decided, so 5 years ago, so it has entered the Kazakhstan market, and there were some cultural things and cultural barriers that we faced there, and this will be also interesting for the auditorium to listen. And now Adjarabet is also stretching Armenia is to have expanded and to have diversified portfolio in terms of the countries which it will be operating, and also it's also, as far as I know now, they're thinking also expanding in other countries. For the sports media perspective, so this would be the same, because just operating a TV channel or the OTT platform in a country of 4 million, so it's not enough. You need definitely to go and grow. So it is how it started. Actually, Setanta Sports started in CIS to develop from 2012 and to add country by country onto the yearly basis. And in 8 years, so we have achieved to operate now in 14 countries. So except Russia, we are presented everywhere, and this helps you much in making the economies of scale from the business perspective. Yeah, because when you are, for example, buying the TV rights or the content on one country, it costs you more. But when you are buying the content or the rights for 14 countries and bidding for that, it makes you per country cost much less than whether if you were doing this. The same is for the betting operators, because betting operations, because you do not need to have the copy-paste model everywhere. You can have the core operational model somewhere and then add some localized teams in other countries, and that makes the total overall cost much less than operating in separate countries as a separate organization. So yeah, and actually, if we are speaking regarding the small countries, so it's a good way. But vice versa, for example, if you are starting the operations in CIS in Russia, for example, which is 150 million population people, first of all, of course, you are trying to get as much portion out of this country as possible because of the quantity of the population, whether it's betting or sports media. And only after that, you are trying to go outside the country. So it differs very much regarding the size and the purchasing power of the market.
I totally agree. Thank you for that. And Kirill, back to you. Your main market is the CIS region, but how far are you prepared to go? Are you comfortable of developing more? I mean, you release the games and they might be picked up in Asia and South America and US, etc., etc. But how far are you prepared to go when it comes to really localizing the content? Is that a difficult strategic choice to make?
I just want to tell you that basically we choose some mixed strategy, because I believe as a sales director that it's more obvious to expand to neighbor regions first. And that's basically how we're expanding now, because the second biggest region for us, I believe, will be in next few years is Balkan region. We already got some Romanian license certification in Croatia and some other countries as well in our pipeline. So we're slowly moving our interest from CIS countries to the Balkans, and of course, we're trying to reach even some regions which is far away from us, which is Asian, Latam, Africa. We're also trying to pick and start to do some operation, because we at least have to start with something. But again, the main point, the main hope which we have now, it's Balkan region, because the similarities between the behavior of the players, the top performing games are very similar. And of course, even with such similar behavior, we have to adjust our portfolio and localize them and make it more attractive, especially for Balkan players.
Oh, that's good. I see a dinner here between Veiko and Kirill coming up soon here. Selling your games into the Baltic market. That's fantastic.
My sales manager was
exactly. I already fixed it. I'm not even taking any commission. And Veiko, to you there, because you are in the Baltics, you're in Finland, and for me, I totally agree with you, and I totally understand that when I say that the Baltics is the same, I'm wrong. But you basically have the same strategy as Kirill is talking about here. You start with Estonia, and then you go to Latvia, and et cetera, and then Finland, and so forth, and you might even end up in Sweden, or I don't know. But then you have also you mentioned Italy as a market. How did that come up? Why? Let's do the Baltics and then we do Italy.
It looks a bit awkward when you don't know the company that well. So our core strategy is to expand primarily, or first of all, where our customers are historically. So our land-based business is situated mainly across 6 different markets. So we have land-based also in Slovakia, besides the Baltics. In Slovakia, we have it in Italy. And we have it in Malta. Malta is one flagship casino, mostly tourism-oriented. So, obviously, it makes sense for us to leverage or, use the same strategy and the model in these territories that I just mentioned, where we, don't have the presence of online gaming yet. And that's kind of how we came up with the Italian expansion. Short answer to that. But I realize it's a different territory.
It is, and sometimes you create a strategy afterwards, and that's often the best strategies, because they kind of fit what you have done. So no, that's good. I understand that. And on that note, and organization, could we talk a bit about the organizational challenges when it comes to operating in different markets? And let's start with you there once again, Veiko. I assume when you have organization, it's also a matter of how close you are, and Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. I mean, we're talking about you can drive to the offices there in an hour, 40 minutes from country to country, and it's no borders basically. And then you have this in Italy, and I also want to ask Lasha later on, running 14 different countries. So organizational, what's the challenges?
I mean, if you look at from functional, so let's say if the function would be online and running an online business in the group, then then it's pretty classical to, I guess, others, like especially Swedish-run companies. So we do have the, sort of central approach. We create the knowledge and centralize it, and then we leverage this across the other territories we expand to. So that's the the logic of that in the online gaming. But the executional teams are obviously in the markets. So the idea is not to go market by market and create the same sort of the structure in each of the regions in the subsidiary level. Of course, we do have a leverage here because like I said, we do have land-based businesses in these locations. So there is a lot of sort of use that we can make from I don't know, functions like HR or accounting from our sort of sister or brother company as such. So, but yeah, I mean overall we are still centrally driven as an organization, and it has worked out for us so far. Yeah.
Good, but I understand that, and especially when it comes to the online business. And one final question to you on that note before we go to Lasha: has the COVID situation with all the video conferencing and people getting more and more used to work like we are doing now, has that increased and helped spreading the culture and making this kind of management or organizational style more what do you call it? More people are more used to it. It's more functional.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, since when the spring break hit us, then we actually did see let's call it an increase in productivity to a short extent, but overall I think we are also doing frequent service internally, and to understand employee engagement and satisfaction to the work. I think in a long haul this doesn't have a benefit to the business, since you don't see each other, you don't work like face to face that much. But so I would definitely not sacrifice working close and working in actual offices to full remote work, if that makes sense. But yeah, on a particular basis, so on, this definitely is doable, and we've done it successfully. Yeah, so.
Good. I mean, I think many people share your view on that one, that a mix is good, but we still need to meet people. That's super important. And then Lasha, you have 14 countries, and how are you organizing this, and how are you coping with the different cultures? Because we already
yeah. So actually here we so in difference of the betting business, so sports media is different in terms of, so here we do not need to deal with the different groups of the customers and to organize our workflow in order to satisfy all the customers. Why? Because you are providing the, for example, you do have the leading sports content like La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, English Premier League. And when the customer is getting it, so he's already satisfied. The only thing that you need to add is the localization of the content. For example, in Georgia, yeah, because how we started, in all these countries, we did have the Russian commenting, yeah? So then we started the localization. Now in Georgia, people can watch with the leading commentators in Georgia language, all this commenting the sports. In Kazakhstan, we do have the local Kazakhstani language. Now we are localizing in Uzbekistan, we will have the local language there. And so this is the complexity, because you need to set up an office and to have the ability to communicate with the different people, because in Kazakhstan there is the separate office, in Georgia it's separate office which we are running, and where now I'm sitting actually in the Setanta office. And it's complex to start finding the right people, to getting the new connections, right connections, and to be ready to have all this operational stuff running in a proper way. But on the other hand, And you need, of course, and definitely where we are moving also is to have the local presence of the social media, digital media as well. And so it was quite difficult and it took quite a long time. So to make the localizations in these countries, actually next spot will be also the Baltics, because in Baltics we will be also localizing. It was in our pipeline as one of the key regions, but we moved in Ukraine, and also we, as I told you, we are now localizing Uzbekistan, because in Uzbekistan there will be the regulations in gambling, and so it's difficult. And you need to find, I don't know, minimum 2-3 distributors of the cable TV operators in each country, because just having the content and EPL and running it on one TV cable operator, it doesn't give. So you need to have the distribution. Yeah. So it's another. Sorry.
This is interesting, because you have a product that is unifying people. You have sports. People are watching football and whatever in any market.
But sorry for interrupting. To get back to your previous question, even sports differs. For example, in Georgia, the vast majority of the people are the sport fans of Barcelona, Real Madrid. In Kazakhstan, for example, it's Chelsea, Manchester United. So it also differs by country to country, you know, which kind of the clubs they are supported to and which sport is more relevant. For example, in Baltics, they adore basketball. Yeah, in Kazakhstan, they do not like basketball. And so country by country, yeah, this is sports, but UFC, for example, is most watched and growing sports now in Georgia, for example, yeah? But we do have several countries where UFC is not watched. Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to also give you more understanding regarding how yes, you were asking the question in continuation, so I'm listening to it.
No, so basically, what your challenge is to get an operational structure, and that's very, very local. So even if you have sports that is international, you have to localize it, and that's very much what Kirill said before, that games, even a game is a game, a slot is a slot, and it's a 5x3, it's a 6x4, but still you need to localize it because it's such differences in different markets, and that's really, really interesting. And Kirill, coming back to you there, and sales, you're the sales director. Do you have to sell in different ways when you go to Estonia or to Georgia or to the Czech Republic? Are there different cultures also in how you address the market from a business perspective?
In terms of business perspective, of course, I see from my team that you have to have really completely different approach in terms of selling the product in different markets, because people, let's say from some Arabic countries or something from even from Balkan countries, they really want to fight with the price. And they don't even think sometimes about some other benefits which we can promote. The most interesting for them is to have a better interest rate and, you know, have every time some lowest price. If you're talking about, again, some other regions as Central Europe, MGA operators, they're more like mostly driven for like more features, more benefits which we can give to the players, the most experience inside of the game. So it's a little bit just different, again, approaches in terms of the negotiations. It comes from the business perspective, because the behavior of the people, we are all different, and of course it's also reflected the business perspective. So it's all connected. But yeah, we're trying to fit all of those requirements, you know, and from the CIS countries and from the Central European countries as well. So we're trying to find some balance between those two differences. Yeah.
That's good. And then back to you, Veiko, and let's talk a bit about regulation. I mean, we all think that regulation is good for the business. Long term, it has to be regulated to be treated in the same way everywhere. But it's also a way to make our industry more sustainable. But if you look at the new market, will the and then we also see that, but there are different levels of regulation today. We have like Denmark. I would say that Denmark is perhaps the best regulated market we have today. It's it's well balanced. The channelization is high, etc., etc. And Sweden has lost their place a bit with the changes lately. Germany is totally out of sync. How important is this for you if you should expand into new markets, that the regulation actually is a functional regulation?
Well, it's one of the key elements, obviously, deciding on whether to go or not, or which strategy to deploy. So it's really a very wide topic. I mean, here again, maybe it's worth to bring out that actually, I was also personally involved with one of the latest or earliest adoptions on the, let's say, kind of open regulatory change that Estonia did back in 2010. And it still is pretty well sort of balanced, and it's really competitive. And one good thing maybe to bring out from here is that it has been very stable. So, the companies here have enjoyed this sort of predictable future. Whereas in some other jurisdictions, you're never sure what the next election or the next year even would bring. Like, if the government is looking to introduce another sort of tax hurdle on the gaming, or when does it start limiting it more and more? I mean, and that one is like the gaming regulation. The other important part, which is maybe less discussed, is the sort of advertising regulation as such as well. Since many markets are very sort of protective on that area, so they're limiting the advertising heavily. In my opinion, there needs to be, again, like much better balance in that space where you have a licensed operators able to do something, right? So that is the best way of competing the offshore on those markets, and many regulators don't really get that, and you rather have scrutiny on the licensed one, even on the advertising space, rather than seeing them working really hard on closing the .com business. So that's, I think, it's important. But yeah, to answer your question, it's the first thing we obviously look at, and the let's say the future. How stable is the country? So can we expect that in a couple of years we would have a normal regulatory environment, or is it very dependent on the political terms?
Yeah. Good. I mean, that makes sense. That makes total sense, and I think that's a clever strategy. Go where you have the least volatility, because, as you say, you can't run a business when the rules are changing all the time. And we are about to finalize this one. We have 2 minutes left on this one, and I saved my best question to the last. Please give me your best fuck-ups when it comes to cultural mistakes you've done. Any market where you totally went wrong, you took the wrong turn, you said the wrong thing, you launched the wrong game, or whatever. Do you have any, or are you perfect?
I do have one.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, please. Yeah, so back in 2013 or 14, when Ajarabet was entering the Kazakhstan market, and at the same time, because Ajarabet at that time, was very strong betting operator, mainly oriented onto the online. And when we were entering the Kazakhstan market with all these enthusiastic things that we are Ajarabet and everybody will come and will play onto our website. So we noticed that Kazakhstan, so the mistake that we made was that Kazakhstan was not ready to play into the online. Online was 20%, but 80% was the offline, because all these big betting shops, etc., etc. And we thought that when you are coming in with the great product, with the great online product, mobile application, etc., it would automatically, convert the players. But it's not like this. The behavior change needs years and years of education, etc., etc. And that was the.
Lasha, that's
Yes.
a common mistake. We have half a minute. Kirill, takes your, what game did you screw up with?
Super short. It's not about the game. Actually, it's connected with the game. I remember we had some expo in London, ICE, as probably you know, and be quite famous in terms of creation some interesting stands. And we presented at one time our new slot, and we prepared BDSM toys as a merch for all visitors. And we were scared how people will react on it because, you know, this is kind of tricky stuff. We didn't expect anything. But it turned out that actually we gave everything within like few hours, and we had the longest line in the ICE just because to take the toys from our stands. It was quite actually surprising for us. We did not expect such outcome.
That's a really positive mistake. You should do positive mistakes. That's really, really good. We take that as the conclusion of this debate. I have to thank you all. You have been absolutely amazing. You are rock stars. And let's do some positive mistakes today and hope for the right guy in the US election. And thanks all. See you. Bye.
Yeah.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.